An army can lose while advancing. Russia's greatest paradox today is exactly this, and it is happening right now in Donbas. Putin had given his biggest priority in 2026 to completely capturing Donetsk. However, to do this, they needed to break that famous fortress belt stretching to Kramatorsk and Slovyansk. For this, Putin drove more than 60,000 soldiers from his most elite armies to a single point for months, to Kostyantynivka. However, this massive strategy crashed into the concrete blocks of small district on the map. The Russian generals tried to breach this point for a full 8 months, tried and failed. Actually, Russian army had attempted to infiltrate the city from the west with a surprise maneuver in January 2026. In those moments when fog and rain completely blinded Ukrainian drones, the Russians caught a window of opportunity. However, this brief opportunity only served to draw even more soldiers into the trap. These infiltration attempts also produced no results. When the Russian army became completely stuck at the city's gates, the command echelon resorted to a desperate and reckless method. The most tangible fiasco of tactical blindness occurred at dawn on March 21st. The Russian command echelon resorted to a high-risk method to breach Ukraine's multi-layered lines. A full 500 Russian soldiers launched a devastating advance without heavy armored protection, with only motorcycles, ATVs, and lightly armored vehicles. This force, advancing in 7 columns, had a single objective: to break the defense line protecting Slovyansk and Kramatorsk, the fortress belt. Picture this: no armor protection, no trench to take cover in. For Ukrainian drone operators, this was no different from an unobstructed open-air firing range. By evening, nothing remained of those 7 advancing columns but piles of scrap. The Russian side suffered heavy casualties. Despite all this tactical desperation and the heavy fire raining from between buildings, Russian infantry did not give up surging forward using their mass advantage. Indeed, by May 2026, Russian forces managed to infiltrate the zinc factory and the high-rise areas. Infiltration groups deepening the assault wave had penetrated as far as the industrial zone of the city center by May 24th. And this grinding continued uninterrupted until Russia's June gains. And yes, in June 2026, the Russian army is slowly infiltrating. It has captured a section of the city. But this very advance is turning into an urban trap that is swallowing the Kremlin's entire summer campaign, its massive 60,000 troop military buildup around Kramatorsk. Because Russia's real target is not this city. This is merely a single lock on the gate opening to Kramatorsk. This lock is actually part of a defense system much larger than Kostyantynivka itself. Kostyantynivka is the southern tip of the Donbas fortress belt, protecting Kramatorsk and Slovyansk. This is a flawless interior lines architecture where logistics centers and interconnected fortified positions are woven together, allowing lateral shifting even under pressure. So what Russia is trying to breach is not a simple line on a map. It is a wall that is extremely difficult to breach on the ground. And in this wall, something changed in recent weeks. The Russians began to make slow but real tactical progress. As of June 10th, the latest assessments from the field point to a single picture. Russia is now pressing the city not from a single column, but from 2 separate columns simultaneously from the east and south. The eastern column is pushing toward the train station, while the southern column opened a breach in the western neighborhoods. The distance between the vanguards of the 2 columns narrowed to just 2 kilometers, meaning Russia is trying to close a pincer right in the heart of the city. This advance also has a tangible cost. The village of Ilanivka, which had resisted for months, came under Russian control in early June and has now turned into a springboard for infiltration groups. Russia has penetrated at least 12.69% of the city this year, roughly 1/8, and resupplied its field forces by 80% as of June 6th. But all of this gain does not change a single fact. Infiltrating is one thing, holding is another. Because despite all these gains, Russia still could not capture the most critical target, the Kostyantynivka train station. Ukrainian forces cleared Dovha Balka in the city's southwest of infiltrators. Geolocated footage published between June 4th to 8th confirmed that Ukraine was actually advancing in the eastern and western neighborhoods that Russian sources claimed were ours. More importantly, independent war analysts clearly debunked Russia's claim that "We surrounded the garrison." There is no evidence that Ukrainian forces were trapped. The reason is simple. Establishing permanent control requires two things: uninterrupted logistics and complete neutralization of the enemy in the area, and Russia cannot provide either. Forces that infiltrated cannot receive resupply from behind. Ukrainian drones holding the sky are hunting them one by one between buildings. So every block captured is actually a block that cannot be held. The northern column of the siege also stalled before it could close. The 3rd Army Corps cannot dislodge Ukraine in Chasiv Yar, which is needed to encircle the city from the north. Mechanized offensives launched in the Lyman area towards Slovyansk also failed to produce noteworthy gains. In summary, ISW's June 10th verdict is clear. Russia may continue to achieve tactical gains throughout the summer, but an operational breakthrough against the fortress belt, meaning a real breakout, is low probability, and its cost will be very heavy. The most tangible proof of this picture was experienced right in the heart of the city, beside the train station. Let's silence the gunfire for a moment and zoom into the exact center of the map. Ukrainian soldiers are quietly capturing a Russian soldier near the station. Neither a fierce artillery duel nor a big explosion, just a single prisoner, and the clear fact certified by that prisoner's existence: the heart of the city is still in Ukraine's hands. This dominance at the center is not a coincidence. Behind it lies an organized and multi-layered force structure. Ukraine's most experienced brigades, including Kholodny Yar, are holding the barricades. The backbone of the defense is not limited to these units alone. This multi-brigade structure is building a coordinated wall against Russia's infiltration groups. However, the real force making Ukraine's defense impenetrable is not just the barricades on the ground, it is the asymmetric military doctrines turning the sky and streets into traps. When manpower on the ground falls short, Ukraine's special Phoenix drone units enter the equation. When the supply line needed for heavy ammunition, fresh units and drone batteries is cut, the Ukrainian army may struggle to maintain its tactical superiority. However, this is only Russia's side of the coin. The Ukrainian General Staff is not watching this strategic danger with its hands tied. It is visible that the Ukrainian General Staff has already shifted logistics flow to secondary routes and backup defense lines behind. Russia, on the other hand, must move even further from its supply centers to completely sever this line, meaning it must extend its logistics lines forward. This situation makes the flanks of Russian assault columns exposed targets. This operational gap makes the exposed Russian columns even more vulnerable. As the supply line extends, the aerial superiority we described earlier presses down one more layer on Russian forces. The cutting of this critical artery could start the process of slowly starving the defenders. There is a very tangible reason why the Russian army is forced to try cutting this northern logistics road rather than breaking through the city from the front. Because that tangible reason is this very wall itself. And to understand why it is so solid, we need to look at how it was built. Everything started in August 2025, after Donetsk fell and the Russian army turned its barrels northwest, toward Kostyantynivka, a military architecture that Ukraine had been weaving stitch by stitch for the past decade, impossible to break. Indeed, ISW's assessment was also clear. The report clearly emphasized that it appeared unlikely Moscow could capture the Donbas fortress belt by military means, because the Ukrainian army has been building impenetrable steel rings around this city since mid-2022. The answer to how these concrete fortifications were built is hidden in time. Those heavy, attritive, and relentless battles the Ukrainian army fought for months in Bakhmut, Chasiv Yar, and Donetsk actually earned golden construction time for the completion of this fortress belt behind them. Ukraine used the frontline cities as strategic buffers and transformed Kostyantynivka into an impregnable citadel. Moreover, this city's architectural structure is practically a nightmare for modern urban warfare. The city has a very dense concentration of high-rises and skyscrapers. Each of these concrete towers transforms into a natural defensive fortress equipped with heavy weapons. For Russian armor to advance without getting stuck in this vertical labyrinth, is completely contrary to military doctrines. However, this tactical nightmare on the ground is only a preview, because what is being sacrificed in the streets of Kostyantynivka is not just soldiers. It was the future of Russia's entire summer campaign. If you know how to read a military map, you see that Russia's real tragedy is happening not in the streets, but in the Kremlin's war rooms. If Kostyantynivka falls, it will not happen soon, and it will definitely not be costless for the Russians. However, the Russians are willing to pay this heavy cost because their real eyes are on the main prizes of free Donetsk, Kramatorsk and Slovyansk. But according to the critical thesis of Ukrainian military analyst Kostyantynivka, the Russian command echelon is currently signing an operational collapse. The Kremlin is piling into this narrow sector not ordinary units, but the most important elite armies of the Russian war machine. The Kremlin piled its most elite assault elements, 3 armies, more than 5 divisions, into this narrow sector. Let's open a very critical parenthesis here. Do not think that such a large force woke up one morning and simultaneously assaulted the city. The Russian command echelon was so crushed under the pressure of reaching that big Kramatorsk target behind it that it fed its best units into this narrow sector piecemeal over months. This district that looks small on the map is the balance sheet of this nearly 10-month stubbornness. Not the result of a single offensive, but the result of an operational blindness saying, "We tried, we're trying again." And the most elite elements of that 60,000-strong force are being ground down meter by meter in the streets of a single district. This tactic means paving the south and southeast with the heavy casualties of assault infantry. In military terminology, this is called a burn operation. The Southern Forces Group's best units are being largely consumed here. Yet these fresh forces were supposed to be used in theory for the push to Kramatorsk, the actual target. Since April, every extra day the Russian command spends on the Kostyantynivka offensive is working entirely against them. The more they sink into the area, the time required for them to reach Kramatorsk's approaches multiplies exponentially. This blind stubbornness is making the Slovyansk-Kramatorsk offensive operation nearly impossible. Russia is trying to break a locked door, but by the time it breaks that door, it will have consumed so much of its strength that when the door opens, it will have no energy left to enter. If an army zeroes out all its assault potential just to breach the buffer zones at the gate of its main objective before reaching it, every meter of ground it gains actually accelerates its own defeat. They could take neither Pokrovsk, nor Kostyantynivka, nor other key cities. Russia's urban warfare deadlock is constantly repeating itself. This is no longer a mistake, it is the system's collapse pattern. The Battle of Bakhmut lasted a full 10 months, then they attacked Pokrovsk, and despite 12 months passing, the city still has not fallen. 2 possibilities remain. Either Putin genuinely believes these lies, or he is turning a blind eye to commanders knowingly sending these 60,000 soldiers into the fire to save his prestige. It appears that Moscow's strategic impositions that do not match ground military realities are completely melting the Russian army's offensive capacity in this urban labyrinth. Because war is lost not only with bullets or drones, but also with psychology. For the Russian infantry forced to surge forward under the fire raining in the city's streets, the situation has ceased to be a tactical battle. The real tragedy is happening not at the front, but at headquarters. Because commanders cannot tell the Kremlin, "We cannot break this door," they are smashing their soldiers into a locked wall in plain sight just to appear to have advanced a few more meters on the map. Perhaps years from now, when we look back at this period, we will see that Russia buried not just a city here, but also its claim to being a global superpower in the concrete of that ruined zinc factory. Write your thoughts right below in the comments section, and let's discuss together the reasons for this operational blindness. Keep following us to not miss the new moves on the map and the breaking points on the geopolitical chessboard. Thank you for watching. So, what do you think about this topic? Share your thoughts in the comments. To stay updated on our analysis, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Thank you for choosing us.